Welcome to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. My name is Madelyn Burke, alongside the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on social media using hashtag GiantsChat. We're coming at you live from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Shaun, happy New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year's Eve. Merry belated Christmas. The holiday season, I also call it the soft season. Mm-hmm. This is kind of when, you break out the bulky sweaters, the bulky sweatshirts, because everybody's just been kind of sipping on some eggnog and, doing their best gluttony impersonation. But
I got to say, it is kind of funny. We've got like a candy holiday in Halloween, followed by a pie holiday in Thanksgiving, followed by like all the gluttony and eggnog holiday in Christmas, followed by a champagne holiday in New Year's Eve, and we call it flu season. But you know what? We're all doing our best out here. Yeah,
and you could also call it the liquid season too,
exactly, because
it's very festive. And for those of you battling the flu, I'm sure there's some callers that are home right now that are a little under the weather. The flu is kicking butt right now. Like the flu is undefeated this time of year. But I was in the ER last week.
What?
With my son, and the hallways were lined with kids with the flu. I mean, it is my son's school. Somebody told me there was 82 kids out of school in one day because of the flu.
Oh, so wow.
It is rampant out there. It's funny, we were talking about like it felt like COVID when you were driving on Christmas morning. It felt like that when I walked in the hospital, because everybody was masked up, and it's like, you know what, if there's a time to bring out the mask, like now is the time, because it's definitely, people are passing around like the baton on a relay race.
Oh gosh. Well, drink your fluids, stay hydrated, get that vitamin C up.
Get the vitamin C, vitamin T, which is vitamin tequila. Mm-hmm. That's the way to attack it from both angles.
Vitamin T kills germs too. Yeah. We know that. We know this is true. So
flu season's upon us. I got a flu shot about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was just having like a routine checkup with my primary, and she was like, "Oh, do you want a flu shot?" I'm like, "I'm here. Might as well stab me. Let's go." And I'm glad I did it. The best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's a number of different strands, but I always feel like this time of year, like we're all going to battle.
Yeah.
Like the virus is the enemy.
Yeah.
And the more weapons you can have when you're in those battles, the better. Like, give me a shield, give me the flu shot, give me a sword. Like,
I feel like Jon Snow just watching it all come at me right now. Like,
you know nothing. The winter is coming. Like that's, and the Night Walkers. That's the flu.
That is.
So give me the entire arsenal. I'll take it all, because I want to have every single weapon and every single defense mechanism at my disposal.
And we got to stay strong, at least for one more week, because we are in the final week of the Giants season. One more game on the docket. Can you believe it?
Just say that one more time.
It's the last week. It is the last week of the Giants season. I feel like we spend all year just so excited waiting for football season to start. And then once it starts, we're in training camp. And then next thing you know, you sneeze and it's over. How did it fly by so quickly?
I can't believe it's week 18.
It's week 18.
Like that.
It is upon us.
It escalated quickly.
Yeah.
It feels like just yesterday we were just, Giants fans, everybody was on cloud nine after the preseason, because
3-0 in the preseason. I had a tan.
There was points.
It was great.
The offense was clicking. It was, everything felt like it was trending in the right direction, and then things just went sideways.
I think we learned a lot about this team this year, though. I think we learned, in years past, there have been struggles with the Giants, right? We have seen 3-win seasons, 4-win seasons before. But the difference between this 3 and counting season is I feel like this is the foundation. The foundational pieces have been laid. The Jenga tower maybe fell over, but all right, we got the foundational pieces of the Jenga tower that we can build upon, in a quarterback in Jackson Dart, in a left tackle that has been tremendous these past several years in Andrew Thomas, in, skilled wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, who will be back healthy next season, in Cam Scadaboo, a young, incredibly talented running back, in Tyrone Tracy, who coming off 1,000-yard season his rookie year, despite missing a couple of games this year, is already 800 and counting from scrimmage. So you've got a solid running back. And then on the defensive side of the ball, You lose Micah McFadden earlier this season. I think, because of the star power that Scat and Neighbors have, that those are the injuries that people focus on. But Micah McFadden was a huge blow for this team on the defensive side of the ball. Incredibly game-wrecking linebacker. So when he comes back healthy, that's going to affect the defense. The way that Abdul Carter has ascended in recent weeks, that is a solid Jenga block to be building upon. The way that, Dexter Lawrence, whether he's had his ups or downs this season, he is still a force to be reckoned with. There are pieces. Bobby Okereke, again, the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Go out and vote for him, by the way. Really showing, especially in recent weeks, what a game wrecker he can be. We're putting it together. The problem is, okay, you got the pieces. The Jenga tower fell over. We got to build it up and make sure it stands up right next season.
Yeah, I do feel like the end of this season is different than last year.
Yeah. Oh, and also can't not mention Brian Burns, Spider-Man, 16 and a half sacks and counting.
Yeah, there's, last year I feel like there was a lot of darkness. And like, as you look down the tunnel of the franchise, there was no real light. Like there were the beacon of light that you were looking for. It was more question marks. Like there was no quarterback. It was, obviously when the season ended, nobody knew if Dable and Shane were coming back. So then once they announced they were coming back, then it was like, okay, all eyes were on, we got to get a quarterback. Right. So I do agree with you that I feel like even though this season was a clunker and, I feel like the expectations we had on this season, everybody's disappointed, frustrated. Giants fans are exacerbated. Like, what do we do? Do we root for our team to win? Do we root for them to lose? Like they're conflicted again. And nobody wants to be in that position, but I do feel like, to your point, like there is some light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
And the light is those building blocks that you're talking about, those players. The Giants have a quarterback. All right. Now they've got to figure out the coaching staff and the coaching situation. So that is the big question mark. But some of these offensive players, these young players, Malik Neighbors and Cam Scadaboo, I feel like this Giants offense has an identity because of those players. And I think that is something to be very optimistic about.
Yeah.
The defensive players you mentioned as well, the core nucleus of that defense, some really bright young players. Abdul Carter has definitely grown up in the last month. And I think that is something that he can carry over into next year. Now he's kind of figured out the formula, so that's good to see. Burns just having a phenomenal season, and I think he's been everything that he was advertised to be when Joe Shane signed him, when he traded for him and signed him to the contract. Like he has been worth every penny. And I think this defense, there are some talented players on there. So there's a lot of things to look forward to moving forward. The big question now is just going to be, who's, what schemes are they running? So that's something
how do you take those talented pieces and bring them together and steer it the right direction? And that's going to be, a big question for the coaching hire and who they bring in. And, we've seen this film before. I mean, look at the Jaguars turnaround, right? Look at the Patriots turnaround. The Patriots last season 4-13, and this season, they're well in their way to the playoffs. And, you bring in a new coach, you kind of change the direction. And a lot of that too, though, is luck of the draw. I mean, the Patriots have beat one team with a record of 500 or better this season. The Giants have beat two. Sometimes it's, yes, okay, there's the talent and the execution, and sometimes it's the luck of who you're playing in that given season.
Yeah, sometimes the strength of schedule does matter, and
that it does.
Going into this season, that was a conversation that we were having daily.
Yeah, was,
man, the Giants have a tough season. Like, look, this is a brutal start to the first 6 games, and you knew that going in. And yet, I think, I'd be curious to know how Giants fans feel right now based on what we're saying. Like, are you more excited about the fact that you have players but no coaching staff right now going into 2026?
Right.
Or did you feel better last year knowing that you had a coaching staff but you weren't sure about what the players are? I feel like everybody has to feel more comfortable that you have the players, because look, coaches, obviously they're coming in and they're teaching the kids, they're teaching the players, they're teaching the scheme, but ultimately you have to have players that can go out and execute, and those are the ones that are going to determine whether or not you're winning and losing. But I think if you're looking at, if you're a Giants fan right now and you're looking at this team, how are you not excited to see Cam Scadaboo, Jackson Dart, and Malik Neighbors in week 1 as they run through the tunnel? Like, right. This offense has an identity, they have an energy, and that's what Giants fans That's what they were flocking to MetLife Stadium for, to watch these guys play, and the electricity that they play with, the excitement. Like, they were fun to watch. And I think that's something that the Giants fans are probably hanging their hat on as they go into this final game and into the offseason, into the unknown, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think that's got to be something that they have to feel good about and feel positive about, even though there are still some question marks to be answered.
And speaking of feeling positive too, I know a lot of fans out there were kind of pining for the tank of, okay, week 17, you're facing the Raiders, take the L and get the number 1 overall pick. But watching just how joyful these guys were walking off the field after the win, and just seeing that locker room with, handing out the game balls and celebrating. I mean, 9 straight losses is a long time to be losing games. To get a win, even if you lose the number 1 pick, that so be it. The guys in the locker room and the players on this team aren't really pining for you to draft the guy who's going to replace them and take their job. They're trying to say, okay, let me win a game. It feels good to win, and it's got to be a kind of a boost in that locker room, because it's much like in the NBA. If you're a 3-point shooter and you're kind of on a dry spell and you're hitting the iron every time, then all of a sudden you see the ball go through the net and you're like, yeah, I got this. You just need to see the ball go through the net, and then you get right back on rhythm. And sure, would have liked it to happen earlier in the season, but for it to happen now, for this team to put together that win, because not only is it about, the execution and the game planning, but it's also just that culture and that belief in yourself and the men beside you, that this is a group that can go out there and win any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday.
Yeah, and I think as players, every Sunday, you're going out there to compete. Like, you want to win the football game. So to have not done it 9 weeks in a row, like, yes, there's no better feeling than winning a football game. And you know what? And this wasn't even like we had to wait till the last play of the game to find out if we're winning. No, we went out there and ran the victory formation, the best play in football, take a knee. That's something that you strive for every single week. Like, can we go out there and close it out there with the victory formation, taking a knee, and then going into the locker room and hugging out with the coaches who have been busting their butts and sleeping in their office and missing time with their family to get scouting reports in and install game plans. Like, everybody shares in that victory, everybody in the building. So those are things that I think carry you into the next week, and it helps you as you go into this week of preparation. Like, okay, hey, we got the win. And there is no better feeling as a player than when the coach comes in and says, see you Wednesday. Like, Kafka did that. Like, that major brownie points for Kafka right there. I know he messed up some production stuff, like giving the players 2 days off. But for a player to hear that, like, that's something that, they haven't heard all season long.
Right.
And it's kind of one of those things, like, there's been times where you're kind of like, you throw it out there for the coach to see if he bites on it, like, hey, see you Wednesday, and he shoots it down. And but that right there, see you Wednesday, that definitely lifts your spirits, regardless of your overall record. And
it was a great win. It was Mike Kafka's first win as interim head coach.
Yeah.
It was a win that came on the heels of Wan'Dale Robinson achieving his first 1,000-yard receiving season, something that is not every receiver has done in the National Football League. He did it. He really stepped up, and we've seen him evolve his game in the absence of Malik Neighbors and really playing a lot more. I mean, not just in the slot, he's playing outside. He's getting more creative. He's getting a lot of more yards per catch than he has in years past, and making more out of these opportunities. Incredible season for Wan'Dale Robinson. And shout out to the short king. 5'8" is the shortest wide receiver in NFL history to have a 1,000-yard season. And he's listed at 5'8". So just for context. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We give, so listed as
Mighty
5'8".
Mouse.
Exactly.
We need a nickname for Wan'Dale.
Yeah, right.
Like, I think he deserves a nickname.
Yeah. Well, we got to workshop this. Callers, we might have you kind of bring in your suggestions.
Yeah, and you know what? Tay Banks to get, returning the kickoff.
Right. Incredible play. 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah, he got a game ball.
Huge special teams play, especially.
I mean, the 2 picks defensively.
Mm-hmm. Ben Sauls, the lefty kicker.
Karake, I think he should have scored. Like, I thought he was going to score.
Yeah.
It looked like the piano like jumped on his back there, I think.
But 43-yard return is not. I mean, he picked it off inside the 10. You want him to go 90 yards.
It was a long run.
It was a long run.
But I think he wanted to score, I think I definitely would have razzed him a little bit. He
definitely put the Giants' offense in good. I mean, inside Las Vegas territory.
Yeah,
but
and they scored,
and they did score,
which was good.
Yeah.
Happy for Wan'Dale.
Yeah.
I thought Jackson Dart played well. I don't think the Raiders defense did a whole lot. It was not very complex, but he looked like a totally different quarterback from the previous week against Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota. So
and I think also something that needs
totally
to be
different schemes.
Yeah, I think things that need to be considered when, people or critics of Jackson Dart are evaluating that game against the Minnesota Vikings, you got to also consider what was asked of Jackson Dart, right? Okay, yeah, his passing yards were so low. Well, he only attempted 13 passes all game, right? Like that's
it was
like
windy.
It was windy. It was against,
nasty.
They ran the ball. When you look at the numbers and the opportunities he had to complete a pass or to make those plays, there were so much fewer than in other games. So you can't really apples to apples that with another game, because it's like they were really running the ball that game.
Yeah, that was the point of emphasis. I do think that Jackson Dart against Minnesota, like there were things he did not see very well, and there was a lot of times where he was under duress and took some big hits. He didn't kind of see all that. I thought the Raiders game was cleaner from that standpoint, but again, the Raiders did not they don't have that same kind of, all these guys at the line, guys are dropping, this guy's coming, so it's not as complex of a scheme. But I thought he handled it well, and he made some nice throws, made some nice runs.
I also wonder, though, with that Minnesota game, going into that game, we heard Jackson Dart talking about how when you describe Brian Flores' defense, it's chaos. And, Mike Kafka was talking about how complex that defense can be. And it almost felt like they made that defense this big, scary monster in a sense. Does that ever happen when you're kind of hyping up the opponent so much that you kind of give yourself the yips in that situation? Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, when you're watching film and, like you're seeing other quarterbacks struggle, and, it's kind of like in golf, like all of a sudden you get on the tee box and that fairway looks, like it's 3 feet wide, you know, and then you get out there and you're like, oh man, there's a lot more room out here than I thought. But you get over that ball and you start to get a little tense.
Yeah.
But I do think there is some truth to it too. I mean, you look at what happened this weekend, Sam Darnold looked awful.
Sure.
Against that same defense. So you kind of look at, all right, it's not just Jackson Dart, but yes, he's a rookie. And if any defense coordinator playing against a rookie, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him. Like, hey, we're getting him in all different kinds of looks. We want to see if he can see the covers. Can he see the blitzers? Can he protect himself? So that kind of reared its ugly head against Minnesota, but he's not alone in that company.
No.
This Raiders game, he definitely looked more poised, more in command. There were a couple of plays where I thought he didn't realize that he had an unblocked defender. There was no hot route concept for him to get the ball out. But I will say, I thought he was very impactful with his legs on the quarterback design runs and then also some of the scrambles, but he was smart about it.
Yeah.
And we're seeing there's some growth there.
And he acknowledged that too. And talking to Paul Dottino after the game on Sunday against the Raiders, he acknowledged, hey, I'm learning, I'm evolving. And we saw that too. He was working the sidelines quite a bit more with his running, and he wasn't, diving for it. He was, being cautious and going for it, but also getting out of bounds when needed. And he is much like any young player in the National Football League, learning and evolving and kind of growing his game as new experiences influence that.
Yeah, he's still a pup.
Yeah,
still a pup, still learning.
Still a young guy. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, you'll hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or simply go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Phone lines lighten up, so let's head to some of the callers. We've got Shaun in Florida. Shaun, thanks for calling. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Doing well. How are you, Shaun?
How you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. And I just got a couple of points here, man. And first off, Madelyn and Shaun and all you guys that do Big Blue Kickoff Live, man. I love you guys, man. You guys break down these games and you keep us positive, throughout these past few years. But I just got a couple of things, and I just want to, and I'll take it off the air. But I just want to let Giants fans know, listen, sports in general is an outlet. It's an outlet for us, all right? You don't have to make it negative. I know we tend to look at some things negatively, but, The people sometimes that call are just negative on everything, the culture, and we've been losing. But, I'm a 75 baby. So, I turned 50 this year, and Happy New Year to you guys coming up. But I've watched 4 Super Bowls, and Shaun, you've been a part of it, and you've been an idol of mine, and I really appreciate the effort that you put in. All right, but we have culture. All right, and the history is important. I mean, and this is a flagship franchise. Just look at the Bears, what they've been going through for years, and look where they're at today. All right, so we just can't be negative regarding this franchise. There's leadership in position. There's owners. There's leadership in position, and I work for a company which I'm not going to name, but I work for a company that has leadership, and we hire employees, and I'm in a leadership role, and I understand that. Sometimes some things don't pan out and you move on and you may fail this year, but failure is not, failure is a positive thing. People have to fail sometimes in order to succeed. All right. So none of these people can do anything these great athletes do on a year-to-year basis, especially even on the practice squad. So for calling for people's jobs, for calling for people's, you can't do what these folks do. So why are you calling for their jobs? Let them do what they do. The Giants are in a good place right now. They're in a really good place. I know the record doesn't show that, but we're in a really good place right now, and all we need is a little bit more leadership, and we'll be right back where we need to be. And it may not be next year. So are you going to call in negatively next year? All right, let's go through the process. We are a flagship franchise that has Super Bowl championships against some of the greatest teams assembled. All right, and we just need to keep it focused. And listen, and I'll take it off the air. I appreciate everything you guys do, Madelyn, Shaun, John, and JC, all the folks that I love what you guys do and keep us motivated. And that's all I have.
Thanks so much for the call. Thanks for the good vibes, Shaun. Love to hear it. I like what he said, though, too. You got to you got to fail to succeed. And I was having a conversation with Cam Scattaboo earlier this year. And Scat was talking about how he's like, there's no such thing as success, right? You have $1,000, you want $10,000. You get $10,000, you want 20, right? You win a game, you want to win the division. You want to win the division, you want to win the conference. You win the conference, you want to win the Super Bowl. There's always more. There's always more that you want when you have those successes. However, he said you learn so much more from your failures, from your shortcomings, from those moments where you don't achieve it. That's where you learn. That's where you grow. And I was like, whatever podcast you're listening to, I need to get on board with that too. But I very much agree with that mindset of you can win and succeed in a lot of things, but those moments of struggle, those hardships, those moments of shortcoming is where you take a look in the mirror and you say, okay, let's learn, let's evolve, let's grow. And if you do choose to take those opportunities to grow, that's when you get the most out of it. So I like what Shaun said, and I agree. And I think, we got to be patient to an extent, but also have the accountability and the standard of, okay, here's what's expected. How do we grow to evolve to that?
Yeah. Appreciate the call, Shaun, and happy belated birthday, 5-0. You're halfway there. I like the positivity. I like the glass half full, mentality, and I think, look, for Giants fans right now, I think the silver line with all this is what we were talking about before. Like you have a franchise quarterback, you have some young, talented offensive playmakers. You're going to have a high draft pick. I don't know what it's going to be. 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4. But you're in the driver's seat right now, regardless of what that pick ends up being, because you are not desperate for a quarterback. Last year was a totally different circumstance. So I think that there are definitely some positive things with that. With respect to the losing and the failing, 100%. Every competitor, every athlete, like you're never going to win every single game. You don't win all the time. So you're never a failure until you stop trying, until you stop getting up and taking another swing, until you stop competing. That's, the difference between success and failure is just trying one more time, right? Like that's really, it's this small. And I coach my son's football team, and I think I've shared this with you before. I tell them, like, there's W's and L's. The L doesn't stand for losing. It stands for learning. Yeah. Like that. So you definitely learn more from a loss. Giants have got a degree this year in learning. But I think that aspect of it is, okay, you're learning, and it's not a failure as long as you are not losing because of the same reasons.
Right.
So, you can't keep making the same mistakes. That's insanity, right? Expecting a different outcome, but still doing the same stuff. So I think that the Giants, look, winning this game against the Raiders, forget about them and who was playing and who wasn't. The fact that you won, you found a way to win, you played better than the other team that showed up that day. That's something that you can hang your hat on. That's something you can build on going forward. But I feel like Nick Saban, I'm not sure what Scadaboo was watching, but Nick Saban has a very good dissertation on success and how temporary it is. And one of the things that he preaches is that as a coach, he doesn't focus on the outcome, because you can't always control the outcome. You focus on the process.
Right.
And that is what leads you to week in and week out successfulness. And it's, like you said, you win one game, guess what? You have 24 hours. All right, this is what we did well. This is what we need to work on. And then you go back at it and you try to win again. So, you're never satisfied with one win or with 2 wins. There's always another game to play, until week 18, and then there's not. But
yeah,
I think success is very fleeting. And Tom Coughlin used to have, a saying, on the wall, and it was, about how if you're still bragging about what you did yesterday, you haven't done much today. And that's kind of success. Like, hey, you know what, we won, but that was yesterday. All right, now we got to win today. And so it's something that you're constantly striving for. It's never a destination. It's a journey. And I think that's, kind of that whole success and fail thing.
And that process too is such an important part of it, right? The process is where you get the confidence to execute, right? In your preparation. If your preparation is strong and you show up knowing that you did everything you could and you put everything into that. I remember I used to cover the NBA, and when I covered the Clippers and Blake Griffin's rookie year, was talking to him. He won Rookie of the Year. He won the dunk contest that year. He was an all-star that year. He was incredible that season. Now he's on the ballot for the Naismith Hall of Fame, so congratulations to Blake Griffin. But I remember talking to him about this, and I thought, like, you look around and these are guys that you grew up watching and idolizing, and now here you are sharing an all-star court on them. Is this a pinch me moment? He's like, kind of, yes. But he goes, a lot of it kind of stems from I stick to my preparation. And I had a coach one time tell me, don't fall in love with the idea of being great, but fall in love with the process of becoming great, and fall in love with the process and the work that goes into it. Not game day on whatever day it is, but the hours that nobody's watching you shoot in the gym, the hours that nobody's watching you work the jugs machine, the hours that nobody's watching you get that extra film study, that you have to fall in love with that process. And the more that the team and the culture falls in love with the process of the preparation and of building it, that will show, and that will show up on Sundays. And that's something that, you just got to kind of build towards 1 week at a time. Now, this Sunday, the Giants have their last game of the season, and I've got some updates from Mike Kafka's press conference. Abdul Carter is sick. He won't practice today. Wan'Dale Robinson won't practice with a rib injury. Javon Holland is in concussion protocol. Jalen Hyatt also is sick. He will not practice today. Several players.
That's that
Theo
flu we were
Johnson.
talking about.
Theo Johnson out sick. He won't practice. Bo Collins, Cordell Flott, Evan Neal also not practicing. But besides the list of the sick days and the injuries, Kafka says he plans to play the team all the way through a normal game plan against the Cowboys in Week 18. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, they're going to play. They're going to play the whole game. These guys, yes, it's Week 18. Yes, there's not, but he is executing it as a regular game. Every player, every healthy player, all in and playing to win.
Yeah, and just kind of going back to like Andrew Thomas, they put him on IR. John Michael Schmitz, they put him on IR. So Austin Schlottman filled in at center. Marcus Bowe at left tackle. Look, these are opportunities. Opportunities for young players to go out and learn, and get experience. I thought both those guys, Bowe and Schlottman, did a great job with their opportunity. They had a chance to go out and play, and I thought they rose to the occasion. Were there some things that they want to correct? For sure. But I thought, on a grand scheme of things, I thought they both played well. There will be some more opportunities in this game too, Week 18, whether it's through sickness or, like you mentioned, Javon Holland and being in the protocol. I think he tweaked his knee too, I think.
Yeah,
knee
so he's
also, probably battling
yeah.
a couple things.
Yeah.
Look, that's part of the game. There's a certain pride too. I think, guys like Bobby Okereke, he played every single snap last year. I know that's something that he prides himself on, is, making sure that you're available. Actually, sorry, it was 2 years ago that he did that, I think. That's something that you kind of hang your hat on. Like, I want to be there for my teammates and for my team and make sure I show up. So week 18, look, this is your last chance to go out with this group.
Yeah.
This locker room will be different next year. Like, you never show back up with the same 53 guys that you ended the season from the last year. So this is the last time that they will share a field together, share a huddle together. So there is significance in that, and you want to make sure that this is your last chance to play at home too, at MetLife. And anytime, any Sunday is a good day to beat the Cowboys.
That is a fact for the Giants for sure. Special Olympics New Jersey's annual Snow Bowl is heading to Rutgers Stadium in 2026. The annual flag football tournament will be on the field from March 6th through the 8th of 2026. The 6-on-6 tournament will feature competitive, recreational, and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at njsnowbowl.org. That's njsnowbowl.org.
The Snow Bowl, the Special Olympics is a great organization. I think I mentioned it to you a couple weeks ago. I had a chance to go down and see their facility down in Lawrenceville. It's phenomenal what they're doing for these young kids. And it's so cool to see some of these young kids that are battling some of these issues. And yet when you put a football in their hand, they just come to life, and they know all the celebrations, all the touchdown dances. They want to do the one-handed catches. They want to do the OBJs. They want to do the gritty. It's really cool to see what sports has done in some of these kids' lives. And so, that's going to be awesome. March 6th through the 8th.
March 6th through the 8th.
At Rutgers University on the banks. Hopefully there will be snow. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
That would be really cool.
The vibes would be strong.
Although
March would be, late snow. I guess it's still snowing.
It would be late snow.
March.
Look, we've had snowstorms in April. I've always been a fan. I want to be wearing shorts on St. Patrick's Day. I feel like that should be the line of demarcation.
Yeah.
Like, no more.
I think by the time the NCAA tournament starts, I need to have a light pea coat at best.
Yeah, I'm down with that. You could snow all you want January, February.
There we go.
Once mid-March comes, we're done.
We're done with it. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. Donnie in Queens. Donnie, thanks for holding. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Yes, no problem. Hope you guys had a good holiday and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, Donnie.
Good day for Shaun to be on the show, because as a player, he can provide perspective that few can. For Sunday, personally, I don't think there's any value in playing any of the established players on the rosters. And my reasoning for that is a player like Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, they've had NFL experience. They don't need more snaps to improve, get better, anything of that nature. Somebody like Jackson Dart or Abdul Carter, guys who are major players for this organization moving forward, have gotten plenty of snaps their rookie year, and any upside of playing Sunday doesn't outweigh the risks of a negative, a serious injury, seriously inflicting into next year. And I guess my question for you, Shaun, directly is, if I'm Jermaine Luton, or if I'm Wan'Dale Robinson or Cordell Flott, unrestricted free agents, there's nothing I can put on tape on Sunday that's going to make me more money. Only something bad could happen to me. And I would say, if I were one of those players, my hamstring or my back is flaring up this week, and there's zero reason for me to risk millions of dollars of my future on this meaningless football game. And I think that the Giants should take extreme caution with any player moving forward that they have high hopes for, that is a staple of this team. Let the guys who don't have a lot of film on them get out there. Let DeMarcus Bowes get more snaps. Let Russell Wilson have his final swan song if he wants to maybe show he's got something left in the tank. But the upside of this mythological culture wins that don't exist, they're not real. Half the roster will turn over. There's going to be a new coaching staff in here. I would ask you, Shaun, I'll take your answer off the air. If you were a pending free agent this year, you've never gotten that big payday, how could you look at this organization and say that you're realistically going to risk my health and my futures of millions of dollars to play this meaningless football game. Thanks, guys.
Well, Donnie, do you want to cash that last check?
Yeah, right?
Are you gonna accept the envelope?
Yeah.
That's waiting in your locker? You're getting paid to play 18 games or 17 games. You're getting paid 18 weeks. So, yeah, you signed a contract that I'm going out there to play. Now, the second thing I had to take exception with Donnie on this is, so you mean to tell me that I'm going to come in there and I'm going to look at Jackson Dart and I'm going to look at all these other guys and say, I'm out. I'm not playing it. What other team is going to want to sign me? No,
Yeah.
I just tapped out. I tapped out on my team. I tapped out on my friends, on my brothers. I'm not doing that. So let me take you back to 2004. All right, Eli Manning's rookie year. We played the Dallas Cowboys at home. Eli had lost 6 straight games. He had not won a single game as a starter. I was battling a high ankle sprain and a torn labrum in my shoulder. All right. I could have sat out and been like, I'm not playing this game. No, I'm not gonna leave my guy Eli out there. I'm not gonna leave the rest of my offensive linemen out there. I'm not tapping out. I'm gonna go out there and we're gonna beat the Dallas Cowboys. And we did that. And we did it. Tiki Barber, we scored a touchdown right at the end of the game. Ended up winning that game at home. And one of the things that will always stick with me, Wellington Mara, rest his soul, he loved offensive lineman, number one. So we always kind of had a little bit of a special bond with him as an offensive lineman. But he used to wait down in the locker room after every game, and he would shake all the players' hands. And he did that, and he would say, thank you. He didn't have to do that. He was paying us to play. But he was thanking us because he knew we were playing through stuff. And he knew that we were going out there and we were wearing the New York Giant on our helmet. Had the names on the back of our jersey. And that kind of personalized what you're going out there and playing for. You're playing for everybody in the building here. You're playing for the fans. You're playing for the city. So I do take exception with what Donnie's saying is that these guys should tap out. You know what? That's what's wrong with college football right now is all these kids are making business decisions and they're tapping out.
Yeah.
And they're quitting on their teams. That's not what this game is about. This is a team concept. This is a team game. And I'll never forget Wellington Mara shaking hands with everybody as we walked in after that victory, and he was smiling. We were 6-10. The season was, it was a season to forget, really, aside from the fact that we beat the Dallas Cowboys at home on the last game of the season, and we went into the offseason with that little bit of pleasure. And as I actually laid in the training room after that game with ice bags, on different parts of my body, he walked through the training room and he went around and specifically thanked all the players that were in there for playing hurt. And I remember he came over to me and said, thank you for playing through all this. And he said, show me where it doesn't hurt. And that always resonated with me. But that's what you're playing for. So, Donnie, I couldn't disagree with you more. These players, no, you're going out there to play. You're going out there to battle. I'm not leaving my homies out there to go out there and play, and I'm not tapping out. And you know what? If any player wants to do that, then go ahead, see the door. But guess what? Don't go looking for some other team to write you a big fat check next year when you just tapped out on your boys.
Well, also, too, it's too dangerous for me to play this week because there's no playoffs on the line. But 3 weeks ago, it's not too dangerous. Every week you're taking the same risk when you get on the field. And every week you're doing it because you love the game. And I think a lot of these guys grew up with the goal of playing in the National Football League. When you have reached that goal and achieved that goal, why are you going to say, I'm going to sit this one out because there's nothing for it? The average NFL career is about 3.5 years. The average. Shaun, you were lucky enough to play for 10, 11 years in the National Football League?
Yeah, I stole for 11.
You had 11 seasons of football. But when that career, a very long career, ended, you still had a lot of life left to live, and you still look back, and I'm sure kind of remember those days thinking, oh, how much fun it would be to get back out on the field and play another game, right?
I wish I could have done 12.
Right? So you think these guys are going to be like, let me just sit this one out. I don't feel like playing today. When you never know how many of these opportunities you get. If you get 3 years of games, if you get 5 years of games, you get 10 years of games, you don't know. And if you're going to say, I'm not going to play this one for the chance that next year I'll feel better. Yeah.
That's chicken crap.
Yeah. That's not the vibe. That's not the move. And I mean, the same could be said for all of us. What do Shaun and I just decide, well, it's week 18. There's nothing to play for. We're not going to show up and do the show today.
Yeah.
We're not going to do these shows. We're done. We're done here. No, we're here. We're doing it because this is what we do and we've committed to doing, and we're seeing it through just like all of these guys are. And Sunday again, it's Giants Cowboys, and this Giants Cowboys game is a very different iteration than week 3 that we saw, or week 2 that we saw. week 2 was a barn burner. Russell Wilson lit it up. It went to overtime. Both teams, played, put a lot of points on the board. Both teams have evolved quite a bit. Significantly, the Giants, who now have Jackson Dart at quarterback, he's going to be making his first start against the Dallas Cowboys. Giants-Cowboys is a game that, win, lose, or draw, this is a storied rivalry between two NFC East teams. You're going to want to go out there and play the game and make the memory and recognize that this is a part of the history of this division. And for Jackson, for a lot of these players, the caller said, oh, well, there's nothing to be gained. Wan'Dale Robinson, 1 reception away from his career high. You think that that's not going to be helpful for him going into free agency when he's got over 1,000 yards and a career high in receptions? Of course it is. There's a lot of players with a lot to be gained personally, professionally, but also as a collective.
And if you're Jackson Dart, don't you want to beat Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I want them coming in here blazing. Let's go toe to toe and let's compete. This is it. This is my last chance to compete as a rookie in the NFL. Next year he's not. So, and every other player, look, this is our last opportunity to compete. And guess what? You're getting paid to play too. So there's that component to it as well. But I mean, to get to go out there and beat the Cowboys, this is your playoff game.
Well, and the only rookie quarterback in franchise history to beat the Cowboys was Eli Manning in week 17 of 2004, which in 2004 there were only 17 weeks. So it was also the final game of the 2004 season. Eli Manning and the Giants get the win over the Cowboys. It was the first and only win of his rookie season. So, as much as, Giants fans remember in hindsight with how great Eli Manning was, and he also struggled his rookie season. This team also struggled his rookie season. Goes out there, gets the win against the Cowboys in the final game of the season. History repeating, perhaps, perchance. Who knows? But that's why they play the game.
Sounds good. Yeah, the next year we went 11-5, won the division.
Yeah.
I won't talk about the playoffs, but we got a T-shirt and a hat.
Got a T-shirt and a hat. You know what? We're playing for the merch out here. That's what we're doing. We've got some questions coming through on YouTube as well. Fingerlickins 1 says, I friggin' love Jackson Dart, Cam Scat, Malik Neighbors. Any news on their conditions? I know Jackson is just the freaking man. I know that Scat and Neighbors both kind of focused on their recovery. Scat's been walking around. He's been very present on the sidelines, just staying involved. You see him gassing up his teammates over there. Working through it.
Yeah, look, I think one of the tough things for both those guys right now is you feel disconnected from the team. So anytime they can come in the building and see their teammates and, see the coaches and stuff, I think it kind of adds a little spark to them. But I'm sure Cam Scatteraboo is, he's probably driving whoever is doing his rehab. He's probably driving them nuts because he probably wants to get it back out there. He's probably pushing the envelope, and they're probably pulling back on the reins on him. Neighbors, his injury is a little bit different. I feel like with the ACL, you got to be much more patient. There are so many things that go into that rehab, and you got to make sure that you do it the right way. You don't want to accelerate anything, and sometimes that's when complications end up coming out. When you're having ACL, there's patella tendonitis that you can develop. There are other things that if you're not, staying patient and staying on schedule, that you can almost hamper your timetable for coming back. So they're two big, huge components of this team. But the number one thing for them is they've got to make sure they're doing it right, getting healthy. I'm sure that for them, they enjoy being here in the facility and rehabbing here when they can. But I'm sure for them, the next 3 months, January, February, March, that's the one thing that's tough about being injured is your off season. You really don't have much of one because you're just fighting to get back to surface level.
Yeah.
When you're hurt. So and then once you get back to surface level, then you could start kind of building on your off season and progressing as if you were healthy.
Yeah, regaining that strength and explosiveness and all that kind of stuff, which I know these guys will be working hard in the offseason to be doing. Trackstar82 wants to know, Shaun, what's your key position to go after in free agency? Madelyn, would the next head coach need to have coaching experience? Well, all right, starting with the first question, what's your key position to go after in free agency?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, when I look at the Giants offense, I still think that they need more points. Like Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatteraboo, we talked about them, what they bring to this offense. But, if something happens to Malik Neighbors again next year, like you've got to have another option. And I think Wan'Dale Robinson has had a really good season. I think the Giants need to add some sort of playmaker offensively. So I think that would be an area of focus. I think the offensive line is definitely something that they're going to address. I don't know how high of a pick they're going to invest in the offensive line, but every year you have to invest in your offensive line. I think Marcus Bowe did a nice job filling in a left tackle. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is going to be the left tackle next year. So do you move Bowe to the right tackle? Jermaine Illuminor, you mentioned he's going to be a free agent, so we'll see what transpires with that. But you've got to continue to upgrade your offensive line, both in depth and with competition. So I think that will be something they're going to be focusing on. I think defensively, we mentioned the loss of Micah McFadden, and when he went down, the Giants just never really had a good answer to replace him. Yeah. So I think some, linebacker is definitely an area of need. Bobby Okereke is the Mike linebacker, and I think that having somebody next to him that you could kind of upgrade that overall competition and talent would be huge. And then the secondary, I think obviously they got to figure out, what are they going to do going forward? We've got some young talent there. Javon Holland, I know they signed him. That's it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the corner situation moving forward as well. So I think there's a lot of areas that you want to try to add some young talent to and some competition to. But I think offensive production right now, that would be what I'm looking for. Yeah. If I'm trying to build this team, like we need to score points. Like you can never score enough points in the NFL. You can never have enough guys to get to the ball. Like I want it to be a conversation in the huddle on 3rd and 7, like game-winning drive. We need a touchdown and we need to convert on 3rd down. I want 3 guys fighting for the ball in the huddle. Like, hey man, come my way. Like that's when you got a squad. Yeah.
Yeah. And to the second part of your question, Trackstar, would the next head coach need to have head coaching experience? I don't know if need is the imperative, but if I'm in any way influencing it, I think it's a strong benefit. We've seen.
We would prefer.
I would personally prefer somebody who's done it before. And no discrediting the guys who have come in and this is their first head coaching experience, but I think the last 3 Giants head coaches haven't had prior head coaching experience, and you'll learn. You don't know what you don't know, much like rookies in the NFL or anything like that. And I think somebody who understands what goes into it, and it's more than just what kind of offense you're going to run, what kind of defense you're going to call. It's also the logistics and the managing personalities and the managing people's time and how to maximize and get the most out of a locker room and understanding how to build an expectation. And not saying that somebody who doesn't have prior head coaching experience can't have that skill set, but I think somebody who does might have a little bit more of a sense of what it takes and what the little aspects of the job that are perhaps surprising to a first-time head coach are.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a tough thing to answer because number one, we still don't even know yet like who's available.
Right.
There's conversations. I'm hearing conversations about this Baltimore Ravens Pittsburgh Steelers game is not just about who gets in the playoffs. It's about who's getting fired. Like the loser of that game, John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin, could end up like packing up their boxes within the next 36 hours, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
But those type of names all of a sudden would jump to the forefront of that conversation. But as far as like the characteristics of a coach, like you brought up an interesting point with head coaches now. Like they're basically like CEOs.
Yeah.
And you're coming in here and, it's funny. I remember talking to a bunch of head coaches and I'm like, hey, you're a first time head coach. How do you like it? And they're like, I love it. I just wish I could spend more time with my players. Like I spend so much time putting out fires and dealing with schedules and dealing with all these other obligations.
You're delegating.
I don't have a position group anymore. Like I used to be the offensive coordinator, or I used to be with the quarterbacks or with, the defense. I don't have like my group. So I think they missed that a lot, but I think you've got to be a good CEO with all of those things and logistically handle that. You've got to be a good communicator. Like you've got to be able to connect with the players. You've got to have a good pulse for what's going on in the locker room. Like what's working for them, what's not. Am I going to be a dictator? Am I going to have conversation with them? Is this going to be, are we going to be collectively decided team when it comes to certain things. How are you going to handle all that stuff? Because I think that's a big part of it now. And look, players now, look, they're different. They communicate differently. They handle things differently. There's so much more data out there now, and I feel like these players now, they are much more. I think they have a bigger understanding of things on a macro level because of the information that they have at their disposal now that we didn't have, back when I played. So they're more, their knowledge is more global. I think because of all that stuff. So you've got to have a really good relationship with the players. Just kind of looking back, I remember Joe Judge when he was here, like he was phenomenal with the schedules and the planning, and he was very meticulous with all this stuff. But there were times where I feel like I would hear from people that he didn't have the relationship with the players, and he was some of the other coaches that would have helped him out in the long run. And so I think you've got to be able to have that. You've got to be able to have that, make decisions for the betterment of the team when you're upstairs doing all these other things. But then you've got to be able to come down on surface level, and you've got to be able to connect with these guys.
Yeah, and to know which guys need the tough love and which guys need the encouragement, and how to maximize and how to get the most out of your players by understanding what makes each of them tick and what makes each of them unique, and knowing them, knowing what's going on in their personal lives too. Knowing who's expecting their first child, or who's just gone through a tragic loss, or being also part, because as much as these guys are football players making huge contracts and this and that, they're still going through the same problems day in and day out that everyone else is. They're still having the same life experiences.
Yeah, I think a good case study is you look at what Mike Vrabel has done in New England.
Yeah.
Right. So like when he was in Tennessee, there was this banter about, he's old school and was rubbing people the wrong way and this and that. And then he goes to New England. The players love him. And look at the dramatic change that he has made.
Well, and also the culture of
the
organization already was kind of that similar culture. So he wasn't changing the culture of the organization. He was almost stepping into it in a way that it has been for the last couple of decades. So it fits better. And I mean, just like sometimes people fit better in certain scenarios. Lastly, LV Giant 72 was wondering how the Giants will prioritize the free agent signings. You talked about this too. Wan'Dale Robinson, free agent. Jermaine Illuminor, free agent. Flott, McFadden, Thibodeau. Well, I mean, some of these guys, Tibbs has got one more year. But yeah, a lot of these guys have contracts coming up. And big question marks on who you bring back and how you prioritize that. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it, the tough thing now with some of these free agents is, the market's going to dictate.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've used this analogy before. It's like when my wife comes over and says, "Hey, which dress do you like?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, let me see the price tags. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, if this is $200 and that one's $500, like, I think I like that one better." So you've kind of got to see, like, what's the price tag on some of these guys. And, sometimes guys go into a free agency and they have an agent telling them in their ear, "You're going to be one of the top 5 highest paid guys at your position based on this, this, and this." And they've got that in their head. And so, for the Giants, you could give them an offer and they could scoff at it and be like, you know what, I think I'm worth more than that. And it's like, okay, you know what, like, then let's have a conversation. If you feel strongly about that, I'm not going to restrict you from that. Go out and see if you can get a better deal. And if you can, then, you could come back to us. Maybe we try to match it. Or, you know what, then the conversation is, hey, look, we can't match that. Like, you got to do what you got to do. And then you have to make a decision as a player.
And free agency, too, is a time in a player's career where he gets to dictate his future, right? You come into the league, you're drafted, you're told where you're playing, you're told where you're living, you're told where you're going. When you hit free agency, especially like Wan'Dale for the first time, we don't know what his priorities are. We don't know if his priorities are to stay or if his priorities are to be closer to home or closer to this or that or whatever. Right. It's a two-way street in free agency. It's how much do the Giants want Exhibit A player back, and how much does that player this fit with their personal or professional goals as well. So a lot of questions.
Yeah, and if you're the general manager too, you're looking at, okay, here's our salary cap. This is what we have. This is what I have available to sign players, and it's based on position too. And it's like, hey, look, I'm going to allocate a percentage of this towards this position. This is going to the offensive line. This is going to go to the defense. So you've got to massage all of those numbers. And then you've got to look at who else is available out there. There's a lot of other free agents that are available, and you might say, you know what, we actually think that guy's a better player than the guy that we have here. And you know what? We're going to offer them both the same contract, or you know what? We're going to offer this guy more money because we think he's a better player. So there's all of these things that kind of go into that. But you know, I think some of these players too, to your point, you know, look, if it's apples to apples, you know, it's do you want to play with Jackson Dart? You know, maybe Wandale says, look, I love JD. Like I want to play with him. I want to be back. I love playing for the Giants. You know, those are things that you've got to find. You've got to have conversation with yourself. What's most important to me? If it's just making as much money as possible, then you're going to go to the highest bidder. Then look, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There are guys that do that every single year. You've got to be comfortable with the decision that you make. You know, Illuminor is an interesting proposition because, you know, look, this is the first time that he's played an entire season. Mm-hmm. This is the most consistent he's probably played in the last 2 years in his entire career. So when you do that as a player, you kind of feel like, all right, I've validated myself. I want to get paid, you know, and I want to get the big contract that has been eluding me throughout my career. And the one thing I always just remind guys is nobody's signing you to a contract for what you've already done.
Right.
Like if you're a free agent, they are going to pay you based on what they think you can produce for the next couple of years. So just keep that in mind. It's, you know, you're never getting retroactively paid for something you've already done.
Right. And something you've already done may prove what you're capable of doing in the future, or may prove, okay, here's something that this is possible. But again, it's a projection of, all right, here's where you are. Is this where you'll continue to be? And finally, Greg saying it's one more game and the pain is over. They made it 16, can go one more week. I agree with OG Shaun on this one. If we fans can endure one more week, so can the team. Yes.
Yeah. How do you expect that? How do you ask the fans to show up if you're going to just like have guys tapping out? Oh, we're not going to play this guy. I'm not going to play that guy. Number one, you only have 45 guys active on game day.
Yeah.
So if you want to shut down 15 of them, like, all right, so who's going to play? That doesn't happen. It's not happening. And you know, I think as a player and as a competitor, like you want to go out there and play. You want to go out. The fans are showing up for you. They've been there all year long for you. Like you got a job to do. Go out there and do it.
Yeah.
Go compete.
And as fans, go out there and come out here and watch giants.com/tickets to get your tickets for Sunday's game, season finale against the Dallas Cowboys. And then just a reminder, the Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, that brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. Well, that's a wrap for our show today. It's Wednesday. And for this year. It's the last Big Blue Kickoff Live of 2025. We did it. Look at us.
Good job.
Go team. It's been real, everyone. We'll see you next year. Oh my God, I did it.
You did it.
I did
you
it.
Went there.
I'm sorry.
You
I
went
can't
there.
not.
There's literally a full corn on the cob on the floor right now. That was candy corn.
I'm just somewhere in here, deep in my soul, is just a dad and Air Monarchs. But you know what? We're doing our best. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants. It's a part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere. Giants.com/podcast. An archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and Giants.com/podcast. For the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. That's a wrap on 2025 Big Blue Kickoff Live. No show tomorrow. Happy New Year's Day.
Year.
The crew's taking the day off tomorrow, but we'll resume on Friday. And then Shaun, you and I back on Monday next week for a show, I believe, as well, as we cap off the season.
Here we go.
All right. That's enough news and notes. See you later.
Seacrest.
The end.
Out.